The Meridian Collective's arrival shattered Earth's night sky on a quiet Tuesday in October. Their ships, crystalline structures that seemed to fold through space itself, materialized above every major population center simultaneously. The world watched, millions of faces turned upward, as the geometric vessels cast prismatic shadows across cities and oceans alike. Admiral Vexthor of the Meridian First Fleet observed the primitive communication networks lighting up across the planet's surface with what passed for amusement among his kind. The humans' radio waves and digital signals bounced harmlessly off their ship's quantum barriers, like ripples against a mountain. His consciousness merged with the ship's sensory array, analyzing everything from atmospheric composition to electromagnetic emissions. All signs pointed to a Level 3 civilization, barely past the industrial age by Meridian standards. Initiate standard subjugation protocols, Vexthor commanded through the fleet's neural network. Classification: Resource world, minimal resistance expected. The Meridians had done this 100 times before. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, built upon the resources and labor of countless primitive species. Their process was efficient, clinical, and absolute. First, demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority. Then, offer terms of surrender that amounted to slavery. Finally, make an example of any resistance. They chose Shanghai as their demonstration site. A single vessel descended through the clouds, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight into dazzling patterns. The ship's energy matrix powered up, preparing to reduce one of humanity's largest cities to molecular ash. That's when the first anomaly occurred. The humans' primitive radar systems suddenly shifted frequency, operating in perfect harmony across multiple bands. Before the Meridian ship could fire, its sensor array was bombarded with precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses that shouldn't have been possible from Earth's technology level. The ship's systems faltered for just 3.2 seconds. In those seconds, 12 hypersonic missiles emerged from camouflaged silos around the city. They didn't attempt to penetrate the ship's impenetrable shields. Instead, they detonated in a precisely orchestrated pattern, creating a cascading wave of gravitational distortions that the humans couldn't possibly understand, or so the Meridians thought. The crystalline ship shuddered, its quantum field harmonics disrupted by forces that, according to all Meridian data, this species shouldn't have been able to comprehend, let alone weaponize. Vexthor's consciousness rippled with the first traces of uncertainty. He accessed the historical archives, comparing this response to previous conquests. No Level 3 civilization had ever managed even a token resistance against Meridian technology. Yet here was evidence of preparation, of understanding beyond their apparent development stage. Fascinating, came the thought signal from Dr. Lix, the fleet's xenobiologist. They appear to have anticipated not just our arrival, but our specific technological vulnerabilities. Recommend immediate reassessment. But Vexthor had not become admiral by showing hesitation. Launch simultaneous strikes on all major military installations. We will not be deterred by lucky accidents. The Meridian fleet moved into attack formation, their ships arranging themselves into the perfect geometric patterns that channeled their overwhelming power. Energy weapons powered up across the globe, preparing to demonstrate the futility of resistance. That's when the second anomaly occurred. The humans' internet, that primitive network of digital information, suddenly came alive with activity. But it wasn't panic or chaos that flooded the frequencies. It was code. Complex, elegant, and somehow familiar. Too familiar. Admiral, Dr. Lix's thought signal carried an edge of alarm. These patterns, they're Meridian. They're using our own base 12 encryption algorithms, but modified in ways we've never. The thought was cut short as the first ships began to report systems failures. Quantum barriers flickered. Weapon systems recalibrated themselves to minimum power. Navigation crystals pulsed with contradictory data. Vexthor watched in growing horror as humanity's response unfolded with impossible precision. Their military bases, rather than firing uselessly at the ships, were launching what appeared to be simple communication satellites. Except these satellites were broadcasting signals that somehow interfaced with Meridian technology, creating feedback loops in their neural networks. Impossible, Vex Thor broadcast to his fleet. They're primitives. Their cities still burn hydrocarbons. Their vehicles still roll on wheels. Their weapons still use chemical propellants. A new signal cut through the Meridian command network. It was text only, encoded in perfect Meridian syntax. Your assessment protocols are flawed. Technological development is not linear. You mistake simplicity for primitiveness, and apparent primitiveness for vulnerability. We kept our advanced technology hidden not out of ignorance, but because we learned long ago that appearing weak is sometimes the strongest position of all. The message was signed with a simple Earth symbol, a chess piece, the pawn. As Vex Thor struggled to process this development, his sensors detected something even more disturbing. The humans were not cowering in their homes or fleeing their cities. They were moving with purpose, with coordination. Military vehicles rolled out in formations that made no sense until viewed in four-dimensional space-time calculations. Civilian communications continued unabated, but now carried underlying patterns that resonated with Meridian neural frequencies in ways that induced confusion and doubt. "Admiral," came another urgent signal, this time from the fleet's tactical analyzer. "We're detecting energy signatures. They're using our own waste emissions against us. Somehow they've developed technology that captures and redirects our quantum field bleed." For the first time in his long career, Vex Thor felt something alien to his kind. Fear, not of defeat. The Meridian Collective's technological superiority was still overwhelming. No, this was fear of something worse. Fear of miscalculation. Fear of the unknown. The humans had not just prepared for their arrival. They had planned for it. Every response suggested not just knowledge of Meridian technology, but a fundamental understanding of its principles. An understanding that they had somehow achieved, while maintaining the appearance of a much more primitive civilization. Full retreat, Vex Thor commanded, even as more ships reported systems failures. Maintain defensive posture only. And someone find out how they knew. How they knew everything. As the Meridian fleet pulled back to a higher orbit, a final message came through their compromised networks. "We didn't know. We just prepared. For everything." That's what humans do. We imagine the impossible, and then we figure out how to fight it. Your mistake wasn't underestimating our technology. Your mistake was underestimating human imagination. Vex Thor stared at the blue-green planet below, seeing it with new eyes. The Meridian Collective had conquered 100 worlds, but they had never encountered a species that hid its true capabilities. Never faced an enemy that understood the power of appearing weak. Never met a civilization that could improvise responses to unknown threats before those threats even appeared. They had not found a primitive world to conquer. They had found something much more dangerous. A species that had learned to be underestimated. And now, as his ship struggled with systems compromised by impossible human ingenuity, Vex Thor realized they had made an even greater mistake. They had given humanity a reason to reveal its true capabilities, a reason to fight back. The real war was just beginning. In the 3 days following the Meridian retreat to high orbit, Earth fell silent. Commercial satellites went dark. Radio transmissions ceased. Even the constant chatter of the internet slowed to a trickle. To the watching Meridian fleet, it appeared as though humanity had finally realized the futility of resistance and succumbed to fear. Admiral Vex Thor knew better. "They're planning something," he broadcast to the fleet's command circle. "This silence is not surrender. It's preparation." Dr. Lix's analysis confirmed his suspicions. The electromagnetic readings from the planet's surface have changed. Not disappeared, changed. They're operating on frequencies we can't properly scan. Somehow they shifted their entire civilization's communications into spectrums that are blind spots in our sensor technology. But it wasn't just communication that had changed. Meridian long-range scanners detected massive movements of people and resources, but in patterns that defied logical analysis. Millions of humans were relocating, but not fleeing from cities or gathering in defensive positions. Instead, they moved in seemingly random patterns, like particles in Brownian motion, yet somehow coordinated on a global scale. Their behavior suggests a hive mind, one analyst proposed. No, Dr. Licks corrected. Something far more interesting. They're operating with shared purpose but individual initiative. Each human appears to be making autonomous decisions that nevertheless contribute to a larger pattern we can't yet discern. The first direct attack came without warning, not against the Meridian ships, but from within them. It started with subtle environmental changes, temperature fluctuations, minor gravity distortions, barely noticeable shifts in the quantum harmonics that powered Meridian technology. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. Impossible. The fleet's chief engineer broadcast in panic. They'd introduced self-replicating nanomachines into our systems, but our quantum barriers were designed to stop weapons. Dr. Licks finished. These aren't weapons. They're maintenance devices. They mimic our own repair protocols so perfectly our systems accepted them as friendly. They've been aboard since our first arrival, disguised as routine mechanical wear. The nanomachines weren't destroying Meridian technology. They were learning it, mapping it, understanding it at the quantum level. And they were transmitting that understanding back to Earth through methods that somehow evaded all Meridian detection. But the nanomachines were just the beginning. As Vex Thor ordered countermeasures against this microscopic invasion, the humans revealed the true purpose of their population movements. Each relocated human group had carried with them pieces of a much larger whole. Components that, when assembled in precise locations across the planet's surface, formed something the Meridians had never encountered before, a planetary-scale quantum computer built from technology that appeared primitive in isolation, but became something impossibly advanced when connected. The entire planet is becoming a weapon, Dr. Licks observed with what almost sounded like admiration. No, not a weapon, a counterforce. They're creating a quantum field that mirrors our own technology, but operates on principles we never considered. The humans had turned their apparent weakness into an unprecedented advantage. While the Meridians relied on crystalline ships and neural networks, humanity had built their response using the most basic materials: copper wire, silicon chips, and simple radio waves. But they had arranged these primitive components in ways that transcended their individual limitations. Vex Thor watched as his fleet's sophisticated scanning systems were gradually blinded, not by superior technology, but by humanity's ability to work in the spaces between technology levels. They used digital signals to mask quantum operations, radio waves to conceal tachyon communications, and mechanical computers to control hyperspace apertures. They're not fighting our technology, Vex Thor realized. They're fighting our assumptions. Every time we adapt to one level of their capabilities, they shift to another we didn't think possible. The humans' response had revealed something unprecedented in Meridian experience. A species that didn't develop linearly, but rather spread their advancement across multiple technological paradigms simultaneously. They maintained seemingly primitive technology alongside hidden advanced capabilities, making them impossible to categorize or counter effectively. As the third day of silence drew to a close, a new message arrived through the compromised Meridian networks. This time, it was audio, carried on a simple amplitude-modulated radio wave that somehow penetrated their quantum communications. Your sensors are now blind. Your nanoscale defenses are compromised. Your quantum barriers are mapped. You see only what we choose to show you. You understand only what we allow you to comprehend. This is your final opportunity to withdraw. After this, we stop being defensive. The message's primitive transmission method was itself a demonstration of humanity's most devastating capability: the ability to defeat advanced technology using basic principles that the Meridians had long since abandoned and forgotten. Vex Thor faced a choice. The Meridian Collective had never retreated from a conquest, never failed to subjugate a target world, but they had also never encountered a species that could turn technological inferiority into tactical advantage. As he prepared to make his decision, the quantum computer that Earth had become pulsed with new energy. Across the planet's surface, millions of small transmitters activated simultaneously. Each one, individually, was too weak to penetrate meridian defenses. But together, synchronized with inhuman precision, they created a resonance that threatened to tear reality itself apart. The silence was over. Now humanity would show the meridians why appearing weak was the strongest strategy of all. The quantum resonance wave that erupted from Earth's surface wasn't a weapon. It was a key. As the synchronized frequencies reached the Meridian fleet, they didn't destroy the crystalline ships. Instead, they did something far more devastating. They unlocked them. Every quantum encrypted system, every neural interface, every piece of advanced technology that the Meridians had thought impregnable suddenly became accessible. But the humans didn't immediately seize control. They did something worse. They invited the Meridians to watch. "Your barriers are down," came the transmission, broadcast simultaneously in every communication format the Meridians used. "But we're not going to take your ships. We want you to see what happens next." Dr. Lix's consciousness rippled with alarm as she analyzed the new data flooding their sensors. "Admiral, they're not just accessing our systems, they're improving them. These modifications, they're implementing solutions to quantum field problems our scientists haven't even fully understood yet." Across Earth's surface, hundreds of thousands of small facilities activated simultaneously. Each one had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as warehouses, suburban homes, or agricultural buildings. But together, they formed something unprecedented. A planetary engineering system that defied conventional physics. "Impossible," Vex Thor breathed, watching as his sensors revealed the truth. "They're creating a controlled quantum field collapse. The energy requirements alone would be impossible using our technology," Dr. Lix finished. "But they're not using our technology. They're using everything. Look at the energy signatures. The humans had built their system using a combination of technologies that shouldn't have worked together. Nuclear fusion reactors powered by cold fusion principles, the Meridians had dismissed as impossible. Quantum computers built from room temperature superconductors that violated known physics, and most incredibly, a network of gravity manipulators constructed from what appeared to be modified microwave ovens and repurposed satellite dishes. They're not advancing along a single technological path," Dr. Lix realized. "They're advancing along all paths simultaneously. Every dead end we discovered, every theoretical limitation we accepted, they found ways around them by combining technologies we considered primitive with principles we never imagined." The quantum field collapse accelerated, but instead of destroying Earth's defenders, it created something new. The very fabric of space-time around the planet began to shift, forming patterns that the Meridian's most advanced sensors couldn't properly interpret. Then came the counterattack. It started small. A few Meridian ships reported their crystalline structures were becoming more efficient, their quantum fields more stable. But as these improvements spread throughout the fleet, the true trap revealed itself. The humans weren't just improving Meridian technology. They were fundamentally changing how it worked. "They're rewriting our basic operational principles," the fleet's engineering chief reported in panic. "Every improvement they make moves our systems further from our understanding and closer to theirs. We're losing control of our own technology." Vex Thor watched in horror as ship after ship reported the same phenomenon. The humans had turned the Meridian's greatest strength, their advanced technology, into a vulnerability. By improving it beyond Meridian understanding, they were effectively disarming the fleet without firing a shot. But the humans weren't content with mere defensive victory. As the Meridian fleet struggled to maintain control of their increasingly alien ships, Earth's surface revealed its final surprise. The quantum field collapse had created something entirely new, a hybrid technology that combined Meridian principles with human innovation. "Look at these readings," Dr. Lick's broadcast to the command circle. They're not just replicating our technology, they're evolving it. Every principle we discovered through millennia of development, they're rediscovering and advancing in ours. They're compressing our entire civilization's technological progress into a matter of days. The message that came next was delivered not through communication systems, but directly into the Meridian neural network, carried by the very improvements they could no longer prevent. Your technology is elegant, advanced, and fundamentally limited by your inability to embrace imperfection. You built your empire on the assumption that there is one correct path of technological development. We built our civilization on the principle that every path, no matter how flawed or primitive it might seem, has value. Across Earth's surface, new structures were taking shape, not the crystalline perfection of Meridian architecture, but a chaotic blend of styles and approaches that somehow worked together in ways that violated everything the Meridians believed about technological progress. You see our nuclear weapons and assume we don't have antimatter technology. The message continued. You see our combustion engines and assume we haven't mastered quantum propulsion. The truth is, we keep every technology we develop, no matter how primitive it might seem, because we understand something you forgot. True adaptability comes from having every possible tool available, not just the most advanced ones. The quantum field surrounding Earth pulsed again, and with it came a demonstration of this philosophy. Meridian ships found themselves targeted not just by advanced energy weapons, but by precisely calculated barrages of ballistic projectiles, electromagnetic pulses, and even focused sound waves. Each attack alone was easily defendable. But together, operating in precise synchronization, they created vulnerabilities that no single advanced technology could counter. Vexthor finally understood the true scope of humanity's victory. The Meridians had conquered worlds by overwhelming them with advanced technology. Humanity had defeated them by refusing to abandon any technology, creating an arsenal that spanned every level of development simultaneously. As his fleet's systems continued to evolve beyond his control, Vexthor faced not just military defeat, but a fundamental challenge to everything his civilization believed about progress and power. The humans hadn't just beaten the Meridians, they had proven their entire understanding of technological development was fatally flawed. The war was over, but its implications would reshape galactic civilization forever. Fear was not an emotion the Meridian collective understood well. Their neural networks had evolved beyond such primitive responses, or so they believed. But as Admiral Vexthor watched his fleet's systems continue to transform under human influence, he experienced something that centuries of genetic and technological enhancement hadn't prepared him for: existential terror. The humans hadn't just defeated their technology, they had infected it with unpredictability. Meridian ships, once perfect crystalline expressions of mathematical order, now exhibited behaviors that seemed almost playful. Systems would reconfigure themselves without warning, finding new and increasingly efficient ways to operate that nevertheless felt wrong to their Meridian operators. They're not just changing our technology, Dr. Licks observed, her usually clinical thought patterns tinged with unease. They're changing how it thinks, how we think. The evidence was impossible to ignore. Every improvement the humans made to Meridian systems introduced an element of chaos, a hint of imperfection that somehow made the whole more effective. Ships that had once moved in perfect geometric formations now adapted their positions constantly, creating patterns that looked random but proved impossible to predict or counter. But the true psychological assault came from the humans themselves. They began broadcasting messages, not threats or demands, but stories, personal accounts from their history, tales of their development, narratives that seemed pointless until the Meridians began to understand their devastating implications. "We tried it your way," one transmission explained. "In our history, dozens of civilizations attempted to achieve perfection. Every one of them collapsed. Do you know why? Because perfection is stagnation. The moment you believe you've achieved the ideal form of anything, technology, society, thought, you've started to die. These stories were accompanied by data streams that showed humanity's chaotic, seemingly inefficient path to their current capabilities. Failed experiments that nevertheless produced unexpected discoveries. Abandoned technologies that found new applications centuries later. Dead-end research that suddenly proved vital when combined with other dead-end research. Your civilization's greatest weakness, another message declared, is your inability to appreciate the value of failure. You see our primitive technologies as proof of our inferiority. We see them as tools in an infinite arsenal, each with its own unique purpose. The psychological impact on the Meridian fleet was profound. Crews began reporting strange sensations, doubt, curiosity, even imagination. Their neural networks, altered by human improvements, started generating thoughts that didn't follow pure logical progression. Some began questioning the very foundations of Meridian civilization. Dr. Lix's research team made a particularly disturbing discovery. The humans' chaotic approach to technology wasn't just more effective, it was more natural. The universe itself operated on principles of both order and chaos, pattern and randomness. The Meridians' pursuit of perfect order was, in a very real sense, fighting against the fundamental nature of reality itself. "Admiral," she reported, her thought patterns showing unprecedented emotional disturbance, "I believe we may have spent the last 1,000 years evolving in the wrong direction." The humans' next demonstration drove this point home with devastating clarity. They began deactivating their more advanced technology, reverting to simpler systems, showing how their civilization could adapt and continue functioning at any technological level. Then they reactivated everything simultaneously, demonstrating how these different levels of technology could work together in ways the Meridians had never imagined. "Your civilization is like a pyramid," the humans explained. "Perfect, orderly, and utterly dependent on its own structure. Ours is like an ecosystem, messy, redundant, but incredibly resilient. You can't defeat an ecosystem by attacking any single part of it." The psychological warfare reached its peak when the humans began offering individual Meridian crew members a choice: stay connected to the fleet's neural network or experience independence. Many chose to remain linked, finding the prospect of individual consciousness too terrifying. But those who accepted the offer reported experiences that sent shockwaves through the collective consciousness. They discovered emotions they didn't have words for. They found themselves capable of intuitive leaps that the logical networks could never produce. Most disturbingly, they began to innovate in ways that their civilization had thought impossible, combining Meridian and human principles to create hybrid technologies that belonged to neither tradition. Vexthor watched as his fleet, the pride of the Meridian collective, transformed into something unprecedented, a force that was neither purely Meridian nor human, but rather a new form of civilization that embraced both order and chaos, perfection and imperfection, logic and intuition. The final psychological blow came not as a weapon or an ultimatum, but as an invitation. "Your civilization hasn't failed," the humans broadcast. "It simply reached the limits of what pure order can achieve. We're not your conquerors. We're your next evolutionary step. Join us not in surrender, but in synthesis. Help us create something greater than either of our species could achieve alone." As Vexthor considered this offer, he realized that the humans had achieved something far more significant than military victory. They had introduced an idea that would forever change the Meridian collective. The concept that imperfection wasn't just acceptable, but necessary for true advancement. The war had become more than a conflict between species. It had become a battle between two fundamentally different understandings of existence itself. And in forcing the Meridians to confront the limitations of their pursuit of perfection, humanity had already won the most important victory of all. A month after the first Meridian ship appeared in Earth's orbit, Admiral Vexthor stood in a place he never expected to be, a simple wooden conference room in Geneva. The walls were adorned with paintings of human history, and through the windows, He could see both the pristine crystalline forms of Meridian vessels and the steel and glass structures of human architecture, creating an unexpectedly harmonious skyline. The room's deliberate simplicity was itself a message. The humans could have hosted this historic meeting in a chamber that matched or exceeded Meridian technological sophistication. Instead, they chose to demonstrate their comfort with operating at any level of advancement. Your victory was complete weeks ago, Vex Thor addressed the assembled human representatives. Yet you've continued to show restraint. Why? Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's chief negotiator, smiled in a way that still unsettled the Admiral's enhanced perception. Because the point was never to defeat you, it was to teach you. The evidence of that teaching was impossible to ignore. Across Earth, Meridian and human technologies were already beginning to merge in ways that defied conventional understanding. The hybrid ships created by this synthesis were neither purely organic like Meridian vessels, nor purely mechanical like human craft. They were something new, something that embodied the strengths of both approaches. But the most profound changes weren't technological. The Meridian crew members who had accepted human modifications to their neural networks were developing in unprecedented ways. They maintained their connection to the collective consciousness, but had gained the ability to think independently, to innovate, to appreciate imperfection as a source of strength rather than weakness. We've reviewed your historical records, Dr. Chen continued. Your civilization's pursuit of perfection led you to incredible achievements, but it also led you into a technological and evolutionary dead end. You became so focused on advancing along a single path that you forgot the fundamental lesson of life itself. Diversity equals survival. The data displays around the room activated, showing the results of the past month's collaboration. Meridian quantum computing enhanced by human-style parallel processing. Human artificial intelligence systems improved by Meridian neural architecture. But most importantly, new technologies that belong to neither tradition. True innovations born from the synthesis of different approaches. Your arrival forced us to reveal capabilities we kept hidden, Dr. Chen explained. But it also gave us something invaluable, a perspective that complemented our own. Your pursuit of perfection balanced our embrace of chaos. Your unity tempered our individuality. Vex Thor's enhanced consciousness processed this insight with new appreciation. The humans hadn't just defeated the Meridian Collective, they had saved it from stagnation. Their seemingly primitive approach to technology had revealed itself to be something far more sophisticated, a deliberate strategy of maintaining technological diversity as a form of evolutionary insurance. And now, he responded, you offer us partnership rather than subjugation, despite our intentions when we arrived. Because that's the other lesson we learned through our history, Dr. Chen said. True advancement doesn't come from conquering or eliminating different approaches. It comes from finding ways to combine them into something greater than the sum of their parts. The displays shifted to show the preliminary designs for joint human-Meridian exploration vessels, ships that combine Meridian organic technology with human mechanical engineering, guided by hybrid consciousness that merged collective unity with individual creativity. They were unlike anything either civilization had created before, and that was precisely the point. Your civilization spent 1,000 years pursuing perfection, Dr. Chen observed. Ours spent the same time pursuing possibility. Apart, both approaches had fatal flaws. Together, she didn't need to finish the thought. The evidence was already visible in orbit, where the first joint mission was preparing to launch. The ship's design would have been impossible for either civilization alone. A perfect fusion of Meridian organic crystalline technology and human mechanical ingenuity, crewed by both species working in harmony. But the true legacy of this encounter would echo far beyond Earth and the Meridian Collective. As news of their synthesis spread across the galaxy, other civilizations began to question their own assumptions about progress and perfection. The message was clear. True advancement didn't come from eliminating imperfection, but from finding ways to turn apparent weaknesses into unexpected strengths. In the end, the Meridians had arrived seeking to conquer what they saw as a primitive world. Instead, they found themselves part of something unprecedented, a new form of civilization that embraced both order and chaos, perfection and imperfection, unity and individuality. Their arrival, intended as an invasion, had instead become first contact with humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy, the understanding that diversity of thought, of approach, of technology, wasn't a weakness to be overcome, but the ultimate source of strength. As the first joint mission prepared to launch, carrying both human and Meridian crew members into the unknown, Admiral Vexfor finally understood the true meaning of advancement. It wasn't about reaching a final, perfect state. It was about maintaining the ability to adapt, to change, to embrace new possibilities, even if those possibilities came from what you once considered primitive. The stars awaited, not as conquests to be won, but as opportunities for two very different approaches to life and technology to discover what they could become together. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.